Hey dudes, so the New York Times has published their 100 best movies of the 21st century. And it's pretty cool because rather than the New York Times making the list themselves, they've asked the opinions of fans and even like directors and stars of Hollywood to create their own top 10 list of their favorite movies of the century. And they compiled all the data into the top 100 movies. And it's been pretty cool because we've been able to see like what our favorite directors and actors have been saying their favorite 10 movies of the 21st century are. I have looked over the list, like kind of briefly, just glossing over it, but I want to do like a deeper dive into it, like a deeper analysis, giving my opinion about it, see like what I noticed, what my takeaways are, um, how I would, maybe change or not change it. I also submitted my 10 favorite movies of the century, so I want to show you guys like what I submitted. So I'm looking at this on Letterboxd because uh, I can't figure out a way to look at the list on New York Times' website without having to pay for it, which I think is just stupid. I don't know why I have to pay for a subscription just to see a list. That's a little frustrating. Like I don't know, like just make news free again. Like what's up with that? So yeah, let's just get into it. So yeah, Parasite at number one. I think any movie in the top spot would be surprising to me, but like I'm not mad at it at all. Parasite is like a great movie. I think that the argument is definitely there for it to be like the movie of the century. So yeah, definitely not mad about it. So Mulholland Drive at number two is what really surprises me about like the top five. I didn't know people were like that into David Lynch like that. Dude, I'm so behind on my David Lynch. Like I've seen Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, watched all of Twin Peaks. From what I know, like it seems like Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive is like David Lynch's magnum opus. But to see Mulholland Drive at number two, like I feel like that is kind of a surprise. Like I really didn't know people were into David Lynch like that. All right, so I definitely need to check it out. So number three, There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson. Honestly, like I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Daniel Day-Lewis, probably one of like the best performances of the century. Uh, I think this was my first exposure to Paul Thomas Anderson. I think this was my first PTA movie. I think I watched this movie when I was like 15, 16, and like I was blown away. That first like sequence, 14 minutes long, like no dialogue, just Daniel Day-Lewis struggling to make a name for himself in the oil business. Like yeah, like that sequence just like blew my mind for some reason. My like young 15-year-old mind. Yeah, but going back to Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, like he really embodied like Daniel Plainview. Um, I'd be interested to see like if New York Times should like do a top 100 performances of the 21st century. Because I would imagine Daniel Day-Lewis as Daniel Plainview would be up there pretty high. Probably top five, I would imagine. All right, so number four, In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai. Uh, yeah, personally haven't seen it, but it seems like this like movie embodies all of what Wong Kar-wai tries to do in cinema. So I mean, I really I just got to get around to watching it at some point. Moonlight, yeah, Moonlight's definitely not a surprise here at all. Uh, Probably one of the best like best picture winners of the 21st century. Beautiful story, great coming of age tale, amazing performance by Mahershala Ali. Very glad that this movie won over La La Land. Like no disrespect to La La Land, but they definitely got it right on Oscar night. All right, so next five, No Country for Old Men. I'm not mad about it, but I am surprised that it is this high. Uh, it's definitely like the Coen brothers' best movie of the 21st century. Am I crazy for saying that? As far as 21st century Coen brothers goes, uh, probably No Country for Old Men, True Grit, and then Oh Brother Where Art Thou. But yeah, like I said, I'm not mad at it at all. You know, Anton Chigurh, probably one of the best villains in movie history. Like a chilling performance by Javier Bardem, like one of the most tense scenes involving a coin toss like ever. I'm pretty sure it was that scene alone that won Bardem the Oscar. So a very well deserved Oscar for Javier Bardem. Seeing this movie this high was definitely kind of surprising. Um, so Eternal Sunshine, The Spotless Mind at 7. Definitely not a surprise being in the top 10. I know a lot of people hold this movie like near and dear to their heart, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a great movie, very creative. You know, Charlie Kaufman. You're always gonna get something unique when it comes to a Charlie Kaufman project. You know, another great like dramatic performance by Jim Carrey that I feel like we just didn't get enough of. I love it when a mostly like comedic actor delivers like a great dramatic performance. Um, we'll get to another one later on in this list, but yeah, definitely deserving of like a top spot. And then another movie definitely deserving of a top spot, Get Out. Get Out was in my top 10 that I submitted. Uh, like definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Probably one of the like most important horror movies of the 21st century. Jordan Peele, you know, a guy known for his comedy sketches on Key and Peele, comes out of the gate and delivers like a masterpiece, like right off the gate, like a magnum opus right off the gate, rich in like social commentary. It's one of the few horror movies that we see like get nominated for Oscars and win an Oscar. Like definitely well deserving of its best original screenplay. Yeah, as far as like importance and relevance goes, definitely deserves to be up here. Uh, and then number 9 is Spirited Away, first animated movie on this list. Personally, I haven't seen it, but I know it's very near and dear to a lot of people's heart. So I'm glad we got our first like animated movie on the list and being this high. So then next we have The Social Network, another movie that's like just as relevant in our social media age. David Fincher, easily one of his like best movies. I would say, at least definitely in the 21st century. We'll get to another one later. It's incredible to see how David Fincher is able to make like a biopic, how he's able to infuse his like directing style into this movie and make it as entertaining as it is to watch. And we just get to see like an interesting mind's eye into Mark Zuckerberg as a character, kind of like what drives him. Just makes it like all the more relevant as like time goes on, and we get to see how things have changed from the inception of Facebook to now. It's why I think it's like this high and deservedly so. Okay, Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, one of the best action movies of the 21st century. So much style, so much color. Like, yeah, it's mostly set in a desert, but just feels so like colorful. The Mad Max series is probably like, as far as franchises go, like really doesn't have any misses. And then next we have Zone of Interest, probably the most recent movie on this list. It being this high is kind of surprising, just given how recent it is. So it's definitely interesting to see that. And we have Children of Men at 13, another one I need to check out. And then okay, Inglourious Basterds at 14. I'm probably gonna ruffle some feathers by saying this, but I don't agree. I don't agree with Inglourious Basterds at 14. As far as Quentin Tarantino goes, it's probably my least favorite movie of his, like that I've seen. I haven't seen Hateful Eight yet. I haven't seen some of the other things and from the 90s. It just doesn't strike a chord with me as some of his other movies do. I think outside of a few scenes, the movie just doesn't really catch a groove for me. Like there are a few scenes in this movie that I think make it worth watching, but outside of those scenes, I don't think are that memorable. And I mean specifically like Hans Landa's opening scene, that opening scene in France, um, Outer Reigns, Brad Pitt's character's introduction scene. I I don't know why I find it just hilarious. His like over the top accent and his little speech to his little troop, and then the bar scene, of course. This is just oozing in suspense, and Anything outside of that, I just like I don't know. It doesn't strike a chord with me. If this were like Django Unchained at 14 or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I feel like doesn't get like that much credit for how good it is. Or Kill Bill at 14. I would be more agreeable with this. But yeah, Inglourious Basterds at 14, I don't really agree with. It could be on the top 100 list. I have no problem with it being on the top 100 list. Like I just don't agree with it being this high, if that makes sense. So let me move on before I ruffle more feathers. All right, City of God at 15. Don't disagree. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Brokeback Mountain. Two Ang Lee movies back to back. Definitely don't disagree with these placements or them being this high. Brokeback Mountain definitely should have won, the Best Picture Oscar over Crash all the way back in 2005. I think both movies well deserving of their placement. E2 Mama Tambien. Not too familiar with that one, to be honest. Zodiac at 19, so two David Fincher. You could argue that Zodiac is better than The Social Network, and I would, you could flip flop those two movies, and like I wouldn't disagree. Zodiac, the way it's just able to like craft this mystery and keep you like stringing along, terrific. It's amazing, and like the way it's just able to like unfold the mystery in front of you and maybe like imply that they're so close to figuring out who, maybe the most infamous serial killer never to get caught was like so close to being caught. Yeah, it really is just a fascinating watch. And again, okay. We had The Wolf of Wall Street at 20. First from Mr. Marty. First from Martin Scorsese. Wolf of Wall Street was also in my top 10. One of Leonardo DiCaprio's best performances. It follows the normal like structure of a Scorsese movie and following this character and their kind of like rags to riches rise and how they're get in over their heads and just how over the top and like just outright crazy the life of Jordan Belfort was. And yeah, just seeing like his story is just crazy. Definitely watched this movie when I was too young. Definitely made my parents a little mad that I watched it as young as I did. I was only like 14, but they weren't happy nonetheless. Yeah, definitely deserving the top spot. So we got back to back Wes Anderson's Royal Tenenbaums and Grand Budapest Hotel. I definitely agree with the Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't know about Royal Tenenbaums. Definitely don't agree with it being over Grand Budapest Hotel because I feel like Budapest Hotel, like it just epitomizes everything that we come to expect from Wes Anderson. Like the colorful, elaborate sets, the quirky, offbeat humor, the style, symmetrical framing. Like Grand Budapest Hotel is the epitome of what we know of Wes Anderson. It's pretty much what you think when you think of a Wes Anderson movie, and I don't know. I really don't feel like I hear a lot from the Royal Tenenbaums. That's not to discredit in any way. I personally haven't seen it, but I feel like there's a lot of other Wes Anderson picks that you could have made here. Maybe I'm wrong, because clearly, this is what the public chose. So moving on, Boyhood. Man, this movie like it kind of holds like a near and dear spot in my heart. Like I was so excited to go see this movie in high school when it like first came out. Like I thought like, call it a gimmick, call it what you want, but I thought like the premise of like following these like characters as they grow up in like real time was like genius. I did think it was genius. And yeah, just I don't know, like yeah, seeing the coming of age tale, it was relatable. I would love to go rewatch it again, maybe when I have a whole afternoon to kill because it was a long one. And just see like how like my opinion changes of it. Like, do I still find it like relatable like when I did back then? Like, how's my feelings about it changed? If they do at all, I feel like that would be an interesting thing to look into. I don't know. I just thought it was cool because like we're really getting to see like two like the younger actors like really grow up in real time. It's like a time capsule of a movie. So yeah, I'm glad to see it this high up. I wasn't really expecting it to be. on this list. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest, but yeah, I'm glad to be reminded of this. Her at 24. Her is surprisingly becoming more and more of reality as the days go by. Almost probably was ahead of its time, as we're quite literally seeing people fall in love with their AI chatbots. Was this movie just that ahead of its time? Was it a warning? Was it just, a prediction of how things are just going to be? It's going to be interesting to look back on this movie as time goes on. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix, great performance by him. He has to be probably one of my favorite actors. I think two of his movies were in my top 10. Yeah, he's easily one of my favorite actors working today. Okay, then we got Phantom Thread, another Paul Thomas Anderson. The only Paul Thomas Anderson movie I haven't seen. And I don't know why I keep delaying this, but like once I see this one, then my whole Paul Thomas Anderson experience will be complete. Until I see his new one that comes out later this year, which I'm super excited for. Uh, Definitely can't wait for that. So I don't think I can speak on this one yet. I just know that people hold this one in high regard. So I would like to see how it ranks, you know, among my PTA ranking, so to speak. Anatomy of a Fall. So another recent one. Another one I would love to check out. Adaptation. This one's kind of a surprise to me. I don't really know that people held this one in that high of regard to be ranked at 27. I'll have to check this one out myself, see if it's deserving of its 27th spot. But moving on to The Dark Knight at 28. Dude, people love this movie. I'm surprised it's not ranked higher. And rightfully so. It's easily the best superhero movie. I'm not just like glazing or anything. It is probably like the best superhero movie. You go on IMDb, it's in the top 10. Christopher Nolan, I think he really, knocked it out of the park with Batman. And of course, Heath Ledger just delivers an all-time performance. Just a reminder of like a star who was gone too soon. I mean, yeah, what really else can be said about it that hasn't been said already? It really just deserves its top spot at 28. Deserves to be on this list. And yeah, so gonna move on to Arrival at 29. Arrival at 29. Villeneuve. I can't ever get his name right, so sorry if I butchered that one. Kind of surprised to see it this high, but great science fiction movie, great performance by Amy Adams. Really kind of like gives you like a different perspective on language and how like we communicate with each other and how like borders of communication can be broken as far as like language wise. Lost in Translation, yep, definitely deserves to be up here. People love this movie. So that at 30, Departed at 31. Yep, finally nabbed Martin Scorsese that elusive Best Director Oscar. Rightfully so. The performances all knocked out of the park. So many twists and turns. And Bridesmaids at 32. I love it. I love that this movie is like this high. I love that a movie like this is this high. Why not? uh, then on to a more serious note, A Separation. Like one of the best international movies of this century to come out. Definitely deserving of its top spot. And WALL-E, we got our second animated movie, WALL-E. Another future that we seem to be heading more and more towards as the days go on. I feel like it's really hard for a animated movie, targeted towards families, kids and families, to be as like grim and heartwarming at the same time. But somehow WALL-E pulls it off. So yeah, it definitely deserves to be up here. A Prophet that I'm not too familiar with. I'll have to look into that. So can't really say much about it. And okay, I think I glossed over this one when I first looked at this list. A Serious Man, another Coen Brothers movie. I think I started watching this one, then I didn't finish it. I don't know why, but it's interesting that it's up here because I feel like people don't talk about this one when they talk about Coen Brothers movies. So I'll have to get around to finishing this one at some point. And then Call Me by Your Name, Luca Guadagnino. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. One of his movies had to be on this list, and yeah, I think this is like, the one that kind of maybe put him on the map. Definitely put like Timothy Chalamet on the map. Its inclusion on this list is definitely not a surprise. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, not surprised there. Lady Bird, definitely not a surprise. Yi Yi, not too familiar with that one, but I know people hold it in high regard. Amelie, definitely not surprised there. The Master also made my list. I think I glossed over this one when I was looking at this list. But I'm glad to see it here. I think it's one of PTA's best works. It's one of my favorite of his movies. It's just a master class in acting and character. Like the fact that Joaquin Phoenix didn't win the Oscar for this role is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the role of Freddie Quell. It's hard for me to look at Joaquin Phoenix and not think of him in this movie, where he just plays like, I don't even know like what you would call him, like a lunatic, maybe a drunk, definitely. Um just someone who is like on the margins of society. If you need convincing on why he like should have won the Oscar, YouTube the clip of him doing what would you even call it? Like doing, I don't know, I guess like a personality test with just like one of the best acting scenes in this movie. I love it. I love this movie. Kind of light on this plot, which I guess turns people off from it, but like then again, Paul Thomas Anderson, like Martin Scorsese, their movies aren't really known for their plots. Like they're definitely more character driven. And that's definitely the case here. But yeah, I'm glad to see it on the list and this high on the list. Old Boy, not a surprise there. Definitely not a surprise. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really do think that this is like one of Tarantino's like underrated movies. Like when you say best movie, like no one talks about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I feel like Tarantino fans kind of like not like kind of discredit your opinion, or like they don't take it seriously. But like Tarantino doesn't need to be balls to the wall to make a good movie. It doesn't have to be ultra violent. Like he's a writer, first and foremost, and he knows how to write an entertaining movie with great characters. And Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, definitely like a great performance, like well deserving. And speaking of great performances in Brad Pitt, Moneyball is so interesting because it's definitely like in that documentary style. It's a narrative movie that just feels like you're almost watching a documentary, and it's about sports without really even like showing sports. Number of times we're actually watching like a baseball game, like in game. Like there's not much. It's about like what behind the scenes of baseball and how the inner workings of the front offices and general management goes into professional sports teams. Definitely a great movie. Definitely deserving of being on this list. Roma, Alfonso Cuarón, not surprised it's here. Almost Famous at 47. Definitely not surprised it's here. The Lives of Others at 48. Before Sunset at 49. I was wondering if there was going to be a movie in the Before trilogy here. So surprised it kind of took this long to get there. Up at 50, definitely deserves to be up here. I mean, we all know about Up, just how funny it is and just emotionally devastating it is at sometimes, and just heartwarming it is at the same time. No doubt why it's here. 12 Years a Slave at 51. Not surprised that's here. The Favorite at 52. It's one of the few Yorgos Lanthimos movies that I haven't seen. Have we really not gone to Dogtooth yet? I think Dogtooth is later on this list, but I thought Dogtooth would be higher. Yeah, so I haven't seen The Favorite yet. I've seen most other works by Lanthimos. I personally prefer The Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth, but I haven't seen The Favorite yet. Oh, and Poor Things. Poor Things is definitely a great movie. I don't know if it's on this list though, but I feel like I can't really compare it to The Favorite without having seen The Favorite. So we'll just move on. Borat at 53. I mean, hell yes. Hell yes. Like, why not? Like, I love that people like had fun making this list and that they like weren't afraid to like include their favorite movies. Like even like the goofy, silly, funny ones. People were able to put the pretension aside and put a movie like Borat up here. I love it. I love it. I have a copy of it on DVD. Like hell yes. Hell yes. Then we got Pan's Labyrinth at 54. Another one I gotta see. I gotta see it. Then Inception at 55. Definitely not a surprise that Inception is up here. People love Christopher Nolan, so it's not a surprise. Just how like, just how much people like talk about this movie, particularly its, final scene. Honestly surprised that Interstellar isn't higher above Inception. Definitely surprised by that. Punch Drunk Love at 56. I'm kind of honestly surprised that Punch Drunk Love is even on the list. Like I'm not upset by it, but like again, it's one of those movies that I didn't know so many people hold in such a high regard to put it on this list. It's not a bad movie by any means, just surprising. And then Best in Show, like similar with Borat. Like I love we have these kind of movies on this list. Yeah, I don't know. I just love it. And then we got Uncut Gems at 58, another one that made my personal list. Uh, Still such a tragedy that Adam Sandler wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this role. Like he killed it, man. Like he killed it. Safdies, they killed it. Like this whole movie should have been nominated for more Oscars. I don't think it got a single Oscar, did it? No, I didn't get a single Oscar. And that's a real tragedy because like it's like you could have gotten it for obviously Adam Sandler, best actor. You could have gotten it for like cinematography, best original screenplay, best directing, best picture. I mean it was, best picture of 2019 in my opinion. So I personally put Uncut Gems here on this list, but if you like switch it out with Good Time, I wouldn't have been mad. I wouldn't have been mad at all. I feel like you could have put Uncut Gems a little higher, to be honest. Tony Erdman, I'm not familiar with that one. I don't think I've heard of that one actually. So I'll definitely have to check that one out. Then Whiplash at 60. I'm surprised this isn't higher. I'm really surprised that this isn't higher. I feel like it people would put it higher. Kill Bill, Volume 1. That's 61. Definitely surprised that this isn't higher. Yeah, it's lower on this list than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Definitely would have thought people liked Kill Bill more so than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Definitely would have put it above Inglourious Basterds, but I already went on a little diatribe, so not gonna go down that road again. Memento at 20, another movie I held near and dear to my heart when I was growing up. I was like, oh, I heard so much fuss about Memento being confusing, and I watched it, and I'm like, oh, it's not confusing at all. I was like, I understood it perfectly. Yeah, there was a time I wanted to get like tattoos, like Guy Pearce's character, because I like this movie so much. I would say it's definitely probably one of my favorite Christopher Nolan ones. Haven't seen it in a while, so I definitely need to try watching it again. So yeah, I'm glad to see it's on this list. Little Miss Sunshine, glad to see it on here too. Definitely not surprising. Gone Girl at 64. It's not a bad movie. Not a bad movie by any means, but I am surprised that it is on this list. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, but top 100 of the century, like I don't know, that's kind of a head scratcher in my opinion, especially being this high at 64. I thought this would have been like towards like, maybe the 90s or something. Oppenheimer, another recent movie at 65. Would have thought this would have been higher because I know so many people loved this movie when it came out. Uh, Best Picture winner, Christopher Nolan. It's a recipe for it being high on this list. So I do wonder why it's not higher. Then we got Spotlight at 66. Yep, great movie, deserving of its Best Picture win. Uh, Great performances from the whole cast. Then Tar, it's an interesting pick at 67. Hurt Locker at 68. Under the Skin, definitely not a surprise that it's on this list. Probably like one of the most like oddball, like left field movies on this list. Which is cool to see. It's cool to see. Let the Right One In. It's an interesting pick. Another horror movie on here. Okay, Ocean's 11 at 71. Now, I'll be honest, I think that's kind of a surprise to see here. Like, Ocean's 11. Like, do people really hold it in that high regard to be a top 100 movie of the century? I'm like, not hating on it or anything. I'm just kind of surprised. Carol at 72, Ratatouille at 73, another, animated classic. I think I probably agree with it being lower than Up and Wall-E. I don't know. Maybe not. I think I like Ratatouille maybe more so than Wall-E. It's probably like one of my favorite anime movies growing up when I was a kid. So, I don't know. I'm not mad really with his placement under Wall-E and Up. Florida Project, Sean Baker. Surprised we haven't seen a Nora yet. Amore, Michael Haneke. From what I know, this movie is just absolutely devastating. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Another Coen Brothers. Kind of surprised to see a serious man over this one, but not surprised by its inclusion. Okay, we got Everything Everywhere All at Once. Another recent Best Picture win. Not surprised. Aftersun. Another one that I include on my list. Just an absolutely like devastating movie. But what's like unique about it is just how like subtle it is. And it's like devastation because it's able to imply like so much, but then like also make it clear at the same time like what's going on. And yeah, it's just really deserving of this spot. Personally, I think it should be higher. I think it's like one movie that like y'all need to see. It's this one. And then The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick. Am surprised. I'm not surprised to see it here. Volver at 80. Not too familiar with that. Black Swan at 81. So first Darren Aronofsky that we've seen on this list. I don't remember if Requiem for a Dream is on here or not. Maybe his most popular movie besides Requiem for a Dream. I know that Natalie Portman gives an amazing performance in this movie. The Act of Killing, our first documentary. So cool to see some documentary love. Inside Llewyn Davis, another Coen Brothers movie. Kind of forgot this movie exists sometimes, but I need to rewatch it because I feel like when I first watched it, I didn't really pick up on some things. So now I'd be interested to go back and see just like how my opinion changes on it. Melancholia. I definitely glossed over this one when I first went over the list. Still need to see it. My only experience of Von Trier so far has been The House That Jack Built. So I feel like I need to experience something else. It's not that I didn't enjoy that movie. Maybe a rough one to start out with, but I feel like at the same time there is no easy Von Trier watch. So going from that, we have Anchorman, endlessly quotable movie, probably a modern comedy classic. Past Lives, another recent movie. Still need to give that one a watch. Lord of the Rings, specifically Fellowship of the Rings. I wonder if that's supposed to be like representative of the whole trilogy, maybe, because I feel like people maybe prefer the third one, like Return of the King, to Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that because Return of the King won the Best Picture, and it's also rated higher on IMDb. So I kind of wonder if this is like, yeah, it's supposed to be representative of the whole trilogy. Anyways, The Gleaners and I, which is a documentary by Agnes Varda. Something I haven't seen, but it's cool to see another documentary on this list. Agnes Varda, she had one of like my favorite movies of like the 80s, or one of my favorite movies that I watched like in film school. Vagabond. I had to do. That's what I did my senior capstone project on. So that movie holds like a special place in my heart. And Agnes Varda, she's a legend. So glad to see her get some flowers here. And Interstellar at 89. Super surprised that this isn't higher. Super surprised that this isn't higher. Wasn't really my cup of tea, but I know people absolutely love it. Like I think I'm the only person I know that doesn't like hold this movie in super high regard. Everyone else goes crazy over it. Its inclusion, definitely not surprising. It being this low is surprising. And Frances Ha at 90. I'm kind of surprised this is on here. I guess I'm surprised that a lot of people do know about this. It's an indie title, so kind of surprising to see here. So is Fish Tank, another indie title. Gladiator, not a surprise. Michael Clayton, really solid, tight thriller. It's cool. Cool to see it here. I have a copy of it. Minority Report. I feel like that's an interesting conclusion. It's definitely not the movie that I would have thought of to be on a list like this. But maybe I'm in the minority. The Worst Person in the World at 95. Another movie I'm not too familiar with. International movie. Uh, but I feel like people hold it in pretty high regard. And Black Panther 96. Not surprised it's here. Another like culturally relevant movie. Like phenomenon it was when it released was cool to see. What it stands for is awesome. Gravity at 97. What they were able to accomplish with just Sandra Bullock and a green screen and make it as entertaining and as cool as it was. Getting close to the end now. Grizzly Man at 98. Another documentary. Werner Herzog. Interesting to see it here. Definitely. Memories of a Murder. I still need to check it out. And then Super Bad at 100. Love to see Super Bad. One of my favorites. It was on my list as well. So it's definitely deserving to be here. Endlessly quotable. Superbad's probably like my most like rewatch movie of all time. That and Step Brothers. There's a time in college I was like watching this movie like every weekend. I don't know why. Mostly just for a bit. But I mean, there's a reason. It's because it's just so good. I feel like it's like relatable in aspects. Like I don't know why it took me so long to realize that Evan and Seth in this movie aren't like the cool kids at their high school. Like I don't know. I just thought they were the cool ones for whatever reason. So yeah, that is New York Times' list. Some takeaways for me. I can't say I'm too surprised by a lot of like what's included on this list. Like except from a few cases, I'm not nothing key really surprising at all. Maybe some of like the spots for these movies are surprising, but like them being here on this list isn't so. As usual, which I'm not surprised in the slightest, is that there's a lack of inclusion of horror movies. We really only got Get Out. Under the Skin is definitely considered a horror movie. Let the Right One In. Yeah, I mean, horror is definitely more of a niche genre, of course, but I still feel like that some of the best movies of the century are horror movies. Like, there's nothing from Robert Eggers, like no The Witch, no The Lighthouse, no nothing from Ari Aster, like no Hereditary, no Midsommar, no Cabin in the Woods. I would easily include some of those in like the top 100 movies. Like those are great horror movies and great movies of the century. Disappointed in that there's not more here on this list, but not totally surprised. I would say I am like surprised and but glad to see like these kind of like goofy screwball movies like Bridesmaids and Anchorman and Superbad on this list. Like I said before, I'm glad to see people like got to have fun with making these lists and that they weren't afraid to put some personal favorites here instead of what they necessarily think are the best. I feel like sometimes we stray away from that. Like, oh, something like Anchorman. It could be your favorite, but you don't necessarily think it's the best movie, if that makes sense. Some surprising omissions, I would say, is there's nothing from Martin McDonagh here, like no In Bruges, no Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, no Banshees of Inisherin. I thought for sure that Dogtooth from Yorgos Lanthimos would be here, but they only got The Favorite. Animated wise, I'm surprised to see there's no like Inside Out or anything from the Spider Verse. No Monsters Inc. No Toy Story 3. I feel like those are kind of surprising. No Finding Nemo. Like I am kind of surprised about that. I am glad to see that there's not a lot of like superhero movies. Like we got Black Panther and The Dark Knight. Those aren't surprising to be on here, but there's no Spider-Man 2. Um, Again, no Spider-Verse movies. I'm glad to see like something like Avengers Endgame isn't here. So we got Arrival from Denis, but we don't have Prisoners or any of the Dunes. at the very least, like I thought Prisoners and Dune would probably be a lock in. And then Incendies isn't here. Yeah, so there's only one Darren Aronofsky here. Definitely would have thought Requiem for a Dream would have made the list for sure. So I feel like people like that movie better than Black Swan, maybe. I could be wrong. As far as like, like popcorn flicks go, like Lord of the Rings or an Ocean's 11 or, My Minority Report, those inclusions kind of surprised me. Not Lord of the Rings. I figured that would be here, but like, there's not like a James Bond here. Like I thought maybe Casino Royale or Skyfall would have made the list, or maybe one of the Harry Potters would have made the list. I think those are my biggest takeaways. I think this list got it mostly right. Like I said, nothing really is like a shock to me. Like some things are surprising, but it's not like a shock. It's like, what the hell is this doing here? I'm glad to see representation from like, international movies. People didn't forget about that. Like, Parasite being number one is amazing. And The Move for Love at number four is also great. I'm glad to see a couple documentaries on here. Like that's cool too. And animated movies were showing some love as well. Yeah, so this was my list in no particular order. Um, Wolf of Wall Street, I explained. Holy Motors is a just really off the beat, weird French movie. Just surreal. Like you have no idea what's going on, and I absolutely loved it. Uh, Uncut Gems I talked about earlier. You Were Never Really Here. Another great performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Lynn Ramsey directed it. It's just a very tight, concise, like 85-minute thriller, and it's able just to pack in so much within that 85, and um nothing feels like extra, like extraneous. Like for whatever reason, like when I watched this movie, I had to watch it again. I don't know why, but I just felt compelled to watch it again, and I'm glad I did because I loved it. And then After Sun, I mentioned earlier, just a great drama that I think everyone should watch. And then Infinity Pool, it's kind of just a personal pick for me. I know some people are a little more on the fence about this one, but I absolutely loved it. I think it was just like the perfect like mix of style and substance, just like those two things like converging to make just this crazy like psychedelic horror thriller. It's just like oozing with style and just like, commentary. I feel like there's so many different ways that you can like interpret this movie. On the surface, it looks like just another like eat the rich kind of ordeal, but I feel like it's so much more than that. There's so much more you could read into it. In eighth grade, I think it's like one of the best like coming of age stories. Yeah, I think it's really just emblematic of like the age that we live in and like the internet age, the digital media age, where we're able to put up a front on online on social media, but then like our personality in real life can be so much different, and just kind of navigates how it is like growing up in this era that can be really confusing. And I think it's just very emotional, very touching, heartwarming at the same time. And The Master, talked about earlier. I need to rewatch all Paul Thomas Anderson movies. I want to do like a PTA ranked, just see like what my personal taste is. It would be Boogie Nights, then probably The Master. But then I don't know. If I watch them all again, that could change. And then Get Out, mentioned earlier, best horror movie. And then Super Bad, best comedy. So that was New York Times. Top 100 movies of the century, all fan voted. That's what I had to think about it. Obviously, all of my opinions are just my opinions. I know, probably a lot of y'all aren't going to agree with what I have to think, and that's okay. Um, I think being able to have discourse about movies and have different opinions is what makes movies great and all art great. I'd love to know what you guys think about this list. Let me know what you think about my top 10. Hopefully, you guys got some good, movie recommendations. I definitely did. Best movies of the 21st century. We're a quarter of the way through. Be interesting to see how this list changed 25 years from now when we hit 2050. So we'll just have to stay tuned for that. So with that being said, y'all take it easy, dudes. I'll catch you next time. Oh, and Donnie Darko. How do they forget to include Donnie Darko? I mean, come on. All right, but for real, I'll catch you guys next time.